الحمد لله نحمده ونستغفره ونستعينه ونستهديه ونشكره ونتوب إليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ولا مثيل له ولا شبيه له ولا ند له وأشهد أن نبينا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا وقائدنا وعظيمنا وقرة أعيننا سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه وحبيبه من بعثه الله رحمة للعالمين هاديا ومبشرا ونذيرا بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده فجزاه الله عنا خير ما جزى نبيا من أنبيائه فصلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم ارض عن ساداتنا أبو بكر وعمر وعثمان وعلي وعن سائر الصحابة والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، عباد الله، فإني أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله العلي القدير القائل بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تلك الدار الآخرة نجعلها للذين لا يريدون علوا في الأرض ولا فسادا والعاقبة للمتقين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, as for that happy life in the hereafter, we grant it only to those who do not to seek exalt themselves on earth, thinking that they are better than others, nor yet to spread corruption, for the future belongs to the God conscious. If Allah is telling us the future belongs to the God conscious, and the future is not with us, so we know where is our state. When people stay away from the truth, shun the true guidance, and possess characteristics other than those on the right path, it is natural that problems increase, like we have in the Muslim countries. Adversities become overwhelming and people are subject to great dangers, like what happened in New Zealand. Especially when the cure for such problems is not readily available and treatment is very difficult. Why? Because the treatment has to come from those who have the diseases of the heart themselves. These are many adversities which can afflict people, but perhaps the most evil of all of them is unchecked greed, which some people possess, along with eagerness to be superior to others. And that's the greatest danger that's happening to the Muslims these days. It's happening by the supremacist Buddhists in China and Myanmar. It's happening to the white supremacists, whether for us here or we know what happened in Europe and in New Zealand. And also the Zionists and what they're doing in Palestine, and a lot of Muslims afraid to talk about it, but alhamdulillah we have powerful people talking about it, whether politicians or journalists, and it's accepted now to talk about the plight of Palestine, that it's not anti-Semitic, it's a human issue. But the problem, we are inflicted also with being afraid, because we don't have strong faith. But our biggest danger these days is white supremacism for us here living in the States or in Europe or New Zealand or Australia. This sometimes supremacism or supremacy of arrogance gets to the level such that people are afflicted by this, become arrogant, and they think themselves as being perfect, and they are better and far and above other people. Possessing such dispraised characteristics can lead one to reject the truth and oppose it, as well as making person become too arrogant to accept the truth and the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On top of all this, it leads some to oppress others and wrongfully usurp their wealth, honor, and even their life. And that's happening a lot in the Muslim world. I mean, some of the Arab tyrants even act like they are supremacist even. This problem necessitates a precise treatment which the Quran has highlighted when it described the action of such people, dispraised them, and warned all of us against following their example. The Quran also illustrated the evil consequences of their actions, such as in the example of Pharaoh. MashaAllah, these days we have Pharaoh in every continent, from every religion, from every ethnicity, where Allah tells us the humiliation and punishment and adversity which he has suffered were entirely due to the evil consequence of dispraised characteristic which he possessed. That's the Pharaoh. Allah tells us in the Quran, in Surah Al-Qasas, chapter 28, إِنَّ فِرْعَوْنَ عَلَى فِي الْأَرْضِ وَجَعَلَ أَهْلَهَا شِيَعًا يَسْتَضْعِفُ طَائِفَةً مِّنْهُمْ يُذَبِّحُ أَبْنَاءَهُمْ وَيَسْتَحْيِي نِسَاءَهُمْ إِنَّهُ كَانَ مِنَ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. Indeed, Pharaoh exalted himself in the land and made its people factions, oppressing a sector among them, slaughtering their sons, and keeping their women alive. Indeed, he was of the corrupter. The Pharaoh of today is even worse than that Pharaoh that the Quran talked about, because the Quran is saying he's killing their sons and keeping their women. The Pharaoh of today killing the sons and the women. When Allah sent Prophet Musa alayhi salam to Pharaoh and his followers, they were arrogant and belied him, which made them worthy of the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah tells us in Surah Al-Mu'minun, ثُمَّ أَرْسَلْنَا مُوسَى وَأَخَاهُ هَارُونَ بِآيَاتِنَا وَسُلْطَانٍ مُبِينٍ إِلَى فِرْعَوْنَ وَمَلَئِهِ فَاسْتَكْبَرُوا وَكَانُوا قَوْمًا عَالِينَ فَقَالُوا أَنُؤْمِنُ لِبَشَرَيْنِ مِثْلُنَا وَقَوْمُهُمَا لَنَا عَابِدُونَ فَكَذَّبُوهُمَا فَكَانُوا مِنَ الْمُهْلَكِينَ. Then we sent Musa and his brother Harun alayhim as-salam with our signs and evidence and a clear authority to Pharaoh and his establishment. But they were arrogant and very haughty people. They felt they are superior. They said, should we believe two men like ourselves, while their people are for us in servitude? They were slaves for us. The Arab tyrants today and the pharaohs of today, they say the same thing about their own people, and that's why the blood of their own people is very cheap and it's okay for them to kill them. So they denied them and were of those destroyed. Allah destroyed them. And that's what's going to happen to the tyrants of today. Maybe we are not going to be alive to see this, but it will happen, because Allah tells us in the Quran it will happen. Allah has also explained that the reason behind Pharaoh and his people rejecting the clear signs and miracles of which Allah supported Musa alayhi salam was due to nothing but their arrogance and oppression. Allah tells us very clearly, فَلَمَّا جَاءَتْهُمْ آيَاتُنَا مُبْصِرَةً قَالُوا هَذَا سِحْرٌ مُبِينٌ وَجَحَدُوا بِهَا وَاسْتَيْقَنَتْهَا أَنفُسَهُمْ ظُلْمًا وَعُلُوًّا فَانظُرْ كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. But when there came to them our visible signs, they said, this is obvious magic. And they rejected them while their inner selves were convinced thereof. They were convinced, they know what happened, they know what Musa alayhi salam did. But out of injustice and haughtiness, out of injustice and superiority, they felt they are superior. So, see how was the end of the corruptors. And that's how it's going to be the end of the white supremacists, inshallah, and the Arab tyrants along with them. The evil impact of this dispraised characteristic on the individual personality is enough of a reason for people of understanding to be extremely cautious of it and therefore shun it. You cannot have this behavior, this attitude of you are better than the person sitting next to you who says just like you, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, or even a non-Muslim. You cannot say you are better than anybody. How much worse is it then when the Quran has promised those who possess this wicked characteristic of a severe torment, and has outlined the evil consequences which will result from this. In fact, the result of this is that it will make a person fall into pride, and that each one of us should have pride, but not pride to the degree we feel like we are better than others and we have our noses up in the air. Here is the dispraised pride that we're talking about that leads to arrogance, about which the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam said, whoever has as little as an atom weight of that arrogant pride will not enter paradise. It doesn't matter the 12-inch beard, it doesn't matter the salawat you do, it doesn't matter the charity you do, it doesn't matter the umrah you do, the hajj you do. You have an arrogance in your heart. You feel your race, your skin color, your language is better than anybody else in this mosque. That arrogance will burn all your good deeds. We are living in very difficult and painful times, us Muslims, filled with hardships, agonies, and calamities. Take a look at how the enemies of Islam have united all against us, and they are very well disciplined, not like us. They are never disunited except when they are conspiring against Islam and the Muslims. We must ask ourselves, why is it that they have the ability to inflict so much harm on us? Are we not the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and followers of the Honorable Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam? What empowered those enemies of Allah to have courage to humiliate the Muslims and actually plan to kill them? Like exactly what happened a few days ago in New Zealand. And a lot of people don't know what happened in Mali just like 3 or 4 days ago, when gangs of thugs attacked a Muslim village and killed everyone in there. Over 135 or 34 people, Muslims, died in Mali because of that. And we know what happened in China, and we know what's going on in Myanmar, and we know what's happening today in Palestine and Gaza. To the degree we all, Arabs or non-Arabs in general, make dua for the people of Gaza to be patient on the hits that they're getting from the Zionists. But believe it or not, there are some Arabs making dua for the Zionists to burn down Gaza. Okay? So when we have people like that, when we have people, Muslims, especially the Arabs, they saying Jerusalem is not for the Muslims. Jerusalem is for the Zionists. They can have it. And the mosque, the Aqsa Mosque, can be destroyed for all they care. As a matter of fact, I don't even know. We were talking about it last Sunday. I don't even know how the Aqsa Mosque is standing because so much tunnels under. So if there is a slight earthquake that comes over there, it will be knocked down, and they will not allow it to be built. So I already have it in my mind. It will be destroyed. So what are you going to do? You're going to cry just like we cried about Spain and about Al-Andalus when it was destroyed? That's all what we do good. We find out that these enemies of Allah are empowered by these Arab tyrants, who, believe it or not, a couple of them were warning the United States, Europe, Australia, and New Zealand about the increase of people in the mosques. These are Arabs, war tyrants, warning the non-Muslims about the increase of Muslims and converts in their mosques. These enemies of Allah, they love these Arab tyrants because they enable them against their own people, and they help them in killing Muslims. As a matter of fact, they help them even occupy their land, like what happened in Iraq and Syria. They invite the invaders to come kill their own people, rape their own women, destroy their own mosque, and occupy their land and rule their people. How do you want Allah to give you honor and victory? Let us go back to the era of Prophet ﷺ, when they were being punished and tortured in Mecca because of the message of monotheism to prevail. And what was Rasulullah ﷺ was promising them? Remember the story when even he migrated and Suraqa was was in his way to migrating to Medina, and Suraqa was after him. That's before Suraqa became a Muslim. So the Muslims are running away, the Muslims are weak, and the Rasul goes and promises him the bracelets and treasures of Kisra, the Persian emperor. And they are at a weak stage. He promised him the supremacy of the pious. The supremacy of the pious is okay. Why is it okay, the supremacy of the pious? The supremacy of the pious is different than other supremacies, because the supremacies of the pious, as we are taught in the Quran, talks about social justice, economic justice, judicial justice, educational justice, and all type of justice. Supremacy of the pious in the Quran does not talk about you being your nose up in the air. It talks about you being equal to everyone, even non-Muslims outside. Not equal in faith, that is, but equal like you don't look at them down, you help them out. Because one of our goals is happiness to all mankind, justice to all mankind. We don't force anyone, we give them the message. Our job is to give the message. Whether they become Muslims or not, that's none of our business. That's Al-Hidayah is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then, after the Muslims lost in Uhud, what does Allah tell them? And this is, they lost already, the battle. In Al-Imran chapter 3, verse 139, وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. There is a condition here. He's telling them, Allah telling the Muslims, after a loss of a war, do not weaken and do not grieve, and you will be superior if you are believers. And Allah here is talking about superiority of the pious, of all the justice that I just talked about. Unfortunately, I mean, sometimes I don't blame them, but sometimes it drives me crazy when I see Muslims in that state of mind, of total self-defeat, total inferiority complex, giving up on victory, and not willing even to stand up and say, I'm a Muslim, and push away the evil. Not willing, because they are afraid to talk about their identity. And I agree with you. I mean, there isn't that much light at the end of the tunnel. Every now and then, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'll mention a couple of them before I end, give us signs that there is light at the end of the tunnel. But in general, the situation of the Muslims is very bleak. To the degree that, and the same thing happened when the Muslims were defeated by the Mongols through treasons. The Muslims collaborated with the Mongols and through Ibn al-Alqami, and they entered Baghdad. The same thing happened to the Crusaders when they entered Jerusalem before. It's through treasons. Right? And the Muslims were down, and they thought it's the end of the world, and they were self-defeated, and they thought they will never be up again, and these things. So it's a cycle. We're gonna go through it every now and then. And how long is that cycle? I don't know. I'm the third generation since the collapse of the Islamic Empire in March 1924. We're still in March. So 95 years this month, Islam is not on earth. This is the biggest plight that happened to the Muslims. And before it was the occupation of Palestine by the British in November 1917. So it's been, in November will be 102 years that Jerusalem hasn't been with the Muslims, right? So I mean, it's the picture is very bleak. But we know, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, victory will be for the believers. So we need to pick up ourselves every time we are down. And I am giving you excuses. It's okay to be down every now and then, but you need to pick up yourself and read the Quran with a language you understand, that Allah promised us victory. Maybe I am, or my generation is not gonna live to see the victory. Hujjat al-Islam, Imam al-Ghazali, and Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, they did not live to see the glory of Islam and the victory of Islam. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah died in jail, right? And Islam was in bad shape at that time. Hujjat al-Islam, Abu Hamd al-Ghazali, the same situation. He wasn't in jail, but his teaching did not the fruits of it did not come to be seen until after they died, both of them. So we know the next generation will have, but we need to have our head up, not down, and we need to tell our kids, the next generation, victory will be in their time. And if it's not in their time, they need to teach the next generation, victory will be in their time. We can't be just say we are a bunch of losers, we are a bunch of self-defeated all the time. And we are, I use it all the time, just to tick some people off every now and then. But Allah tells us in the Quran, and He told Musa alayhi salam, when he was down and feeling self-defeated, قُلْنَا لَا تَخَفْ إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْأَعْلَى. We said, Allah said, fear not, indeed you will be superior. This is not a promise from me. I'm not a scholar, I'm just a preacher, I'm just a student of Islam. Allah is promising you, you will be superior. Superiority of the pious, that is, not superior with your nose up. The same thing happened, and we discussed it before, what happened with Dawood and Jalut, Dawood alayhi salam, David and Goliath. We discussed this before. But the Quran tells us the 6 components of victory which Muslims don't have it today, whether in the Muslim countries or here. And that is courage, sincerity, unity. How much I cry about unity. We don't have it, even here in our area, we don't have it. Like one brother asked me, does anybody listen to you? No, nobody listens to me. I don't want anybody to listen to me. But my job is to deliver. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask me about the little thing I know and I read about, what did I do with it? Did I deliver the message? My job is not any one of you to listen. Probably you are not going to listen. But this is the most important thing. Your enemies, the white supremacists, are united against you, and they are very well disciplined against you, and that's another component of victory. And they have very strong will against you, and that's another component of victory. And they are very loyal to each other, and they are to kill us and destroy us, and that's another component of victory. And they have the courage to do so. Where are we from this? Anyone who possesses these 6 factors of victory will win, whether a Muslim or non-Muslim. Where are we from this? And Allah told us this in the Quran from the story of Musa alayhi salam and the story of Dawood and Jalut. Where are we from this? But I mean, every now and then, like I said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends us messages, and the messages we've been having these days were Muslims standing up. We have 2 Muslim sisters in Congress. They speak about Muslims and defending Muslims, about justice. They speak about the plight of Palestinians, wherein before anyone will speak about the plight of Palestinians will be ranked as anti-Jewish and their career will be over. Now it can't be. Now what happen is the opposite. Someone in Fox News talked something from the Quran against hijab for Muslim women, she gets fired. Now being an anti-Muslim will put you in trouble. So this is some of the signs. In New Zealand, in the second masjid, how come the second masjid didn't have that many dead as the first masjid? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent us a brother named Abdul Aziz. He didn't have a gun, he didn't have anything with him. He had a credit card machine. He wanted to startle the terrorists. He threw things at him. He chased him out, weaving between cars, throwing things at him, until the guy ran out of bullets. He took his gun and hit him in his car, and the guy got scared and ran away. That second mosque only 8 dead, but the mosque was full. The number of dead in New Zealand would have been more than 50, would have been over 100 if it wasn't for that brother Abdul Aziz. So every now and then we get these little signs. This is little, maybe weak light, that there is light at the end of the tunnel. But again, I'm not going to put my head in the sand and say everything is okay. But unfortunately, we have people, and today, when the truth is clear and the falsehood is clear, they act like Switzerland. I'm neutral. These kind of people, when oppression is clear and falsehood is clear, and they decide to be neutral and not to take side with the truth, they are traitors. And they will find some people, because they are cowards, they try to come up with reasoning by acting like they are wise people. They are nothing but cowards. Having these kind of excuses, acting like you are a wise person, that's an act of cowardness. And unfortunately, a lot of Muslims acting like these days today. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Ask Allah for forgiveness. He's the most forgiving, the most merciful. الحمد لله وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the last thing I want to say is, told us many times in the Quran, هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. It is He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who sent His messenger with the guidance and religion of truth to manifest it over all religion, although those who associate others with Allah dislike it. So the religion of Allah will prevail eventually. Maybe we are not, my generation, I'm hoping the next generation will see the victory. Maybe my generation and the generation before me, before my generation, we will not see the victory. But that doesn't mean to discourage the new generation. That does not mean to make them cowards and self-defeated. No, that means raise up your head up high, you are a Muslim. Because Allah tells you this in the Quran. And before I end,